so I think that this has been a process that I have tapped into over and over and over again when something is important to me and it seems like I can't, I'm not going to be able to get there. It's like, okay, how am I going to do this? Let's gather the facts. Let's put together the case, and then let's logically argue our case for why it should make sense. And for the most part, it's worked pretty well for me.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, a lot of the women that I've spoken to have a little bit of that. Well, if you tell me I can't do it, I'm going to show you I can do it. And I wonder if some of that also comes just from kind of the society that we grow up in as women. And you and I grew up a little, you grew up a little bit later than I did, but I'm kind of the beginning of Gen X, and you're sort of, I think, towards the end of Gen X. But that that time period, 60s, 70s, even early 80s, where it was still not the norm for women to sort of go out and work and have a career. And so there was a lot of societal feedback
Mm.
around us that said, well, it's not really something for you to do. And I
Mm.
think, at least for me, I feel like some of that societal feedback, my pushback immediately was, well, I'll show you.
Right.
But I, I think it is a bit of a double-edged sword for women too, because it's, well, why am I really doing this? As you said, am I really doing this just to prove a point? Or am I doing this because this is the right thing to do? And I think that's an interesting thing to think about as you become a leader or as you become a manager and you go into leadership. Feedback is really important. How do you take that feedback? And not necessarily every bit of feedback shouldn't change your mind. It should be you should intake it and then look at it logically, as you said, and determine whether you should move forward or not. So I think it's interesting because definitely for me, my first impulse is, well, I'll show you. And then the
Yeah.
next impulse has to be, well, wait a second. Let's think about this, right?
That's right.
And let's make sure we take all the feedback in. Yeah.
It's so true, and I know that we've all heard the things that say, if something comes your way, like feedback, or no, 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 you can't do that. That's impossible, and you have that triggered feeling. We've all heard the advice of like, walk away, don't send the email right away, take 5 minutes, put it in your drafts, and then, sleep on it. And if you still feel that way, then send the email. And while it is a bit cliched for all of that, my goodness, for me, it has that stuff has been very, very helpful because I can feel myself when I'm in
Hmm.
that situation. Somebody tells me no, or somebody implies no, which is more often the case.
Right.
Or I get feedback that really is, against where I feel like I'm trying to show up in the world. I have
Right.
this immediate, like, wait, I need to defend. I need to defend myself. And
Right.
when I have hit the send button, or called immediately, most often than not, I have looked back on those moments and said, oh, I wish that I had waited just 10 minutes to do that.
Right.
It may have still been the conversation, the tone still may have been heated, or, where it needed to be, but I just wish that I wasn't in that heightened sort of, fight mode in my head.
Yeah.
It's always good advice to just take as much time as you're able to take, even if it's 3 breaths.
Yep. Just breathe sometimes. Yeah. Put a pin in it or take a pause. Yeah. I think that's really valuable. And it was certainly for me, especially when I was younger, because that was definitely feedback that I needed. And it sometimes it's hard to put a pause on it, but it really can be very, very beneficial.